Hello, lovely viewers. Welcome to your favorite cooking channel. Today we're going to do Bofrot Toogbei, and we're going to do it in some twist in here. So I'm going to do the regular ones we know, and I'm going to do one with oat flour, especially for people who want to check their weight, and people who love oats a lot, or you want to dodge the plenty gluten from the baking flour or the soft flour and the hard flour and those ones. So yes, this is two options to go with, and you can enjoy this with your house cocoa, which I've equally taught on this channel. But if you've not subscribed, liked, or share, do well to do that right now by clicking that subscribe button. Do well to like, comment, and share to your loved ones as well. I'm going to start with the regular one, and then I'll teach you my favorite is the oat one afterwards. So I'm starting with 2 cups of flour. So I use soft flour in here. You could use hard flour as well. I add in a little bit of salt, just a pinch of salt in there. Then I add in my sugar. Of course, I add in nutmeg. You can't do this without nutmeg. I add in milk powder and my yeast, and I'm going to just mix all of them together beautifully. Then I'll just do a hole in the middle, and I'm going to be adding the egg in there. And because I don't want it to be nauseating, I'm going to add in some essence as well, just to reduce the pungent scent of the egg in there. And of course, we're going to be mixing this with a little bit of water. Yes, little bit of it, but I'm not going to use too much. Yes, if you use too much water, you're not going to get it like dropping like heavy. So your bath is going to be like light, and it's going to be more how do I say, flat but fluffy. Yes, so depending on how thick you'd want it, you could use less water. And I think if you want it very thick, you could just use your wooden spoon or your hand to mix, because when you use a whisk, it'll get heavier as um because it's too heavy. It will get too heavy for you to whisk, and you have issue with it. So I think if you want it very thick, you want to drop it like the way we do it in Ghana, you may need to use less water, and your hand or the wooden spoon always comes in handy. So I'm just going to be working this just a little bit. So I'm mixing it and trying to activate a little bit of the gluten in there. I want it to get stretchy and fluffy. So you want to beat it just a little bit, just to increase the elasticity of the flour. Let me say it like that. So you want to activate the gluten just a little bit more before you pull this down. Now, for every buffalo you want to do, every wet donut, especially this type, what you want to note is that once you're done mixing, you need it to sit for a while for the yeast to rise before you beat out the air, and then you repeat it the process just a little bit more. So that gives you that soft, fluffy, airy nature of it. So after mixing it for like 5 to 7 minutes, I just covered it with my foil. Yes, and you can use hard flour, you can use soft flour. If you're using hard flour, you could even do less than 7 minutes mixing. Yes, so you just let it sit till it rises. It should double up at worst. So within 30 to 45 minutes, it should double up. Now, the doubling is also dependent on the temperature in your room or your where you're staying. So if the place is very cold, it will take a long time for it to rise. So you could put it in a dark place, or put it at a place where maybe your room light is shining on it, just to provide a little bit of heat for it to rise. As I'm going to beat out the air from it, I'm going to work it just a little bit more for like 5 minutes as well. So that's, you realize my texture is not bad. This is a bit soft, yes. So like I was saying, if you want it very thick, just reduce the water and you get it heavier. So as that is there, I just work on my oats as well. So the oat type, what I do is that I use the old fashioned oats, yes, the whole oats. I use that type, whole oats. I just blend it and I get the oats powder fresh. without any additives. Yes. So for oats, it's very easy to blend. Any blender can blend oats. Trust me on this one. So you just need to blend your oats to get the oats flour, oats powder. It's as simple as that. And you can use this for bread, you can use it for cookie, you can use it for biscuits, you can use it for this wet donuts. And there's a lot you can do with your oat flour, including banku and all those ones. So if you want to check your weight, usually you can do more of the oat flour and use it for your recipes. I'll do well to release more of these recipes. I'm going to use a cup of the oat flour. So I'm going to repeat that same process I did for the regular one. So I have the oat. I'm going to add my pinch of salt. I'm going to add 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of yeast. I'm using some milk as well. I'm just mixing all of them all together in there. I'm going to add in my egg and I'm adding honey. So I'm not going to use sugar in this recipe. I'm using honey. You can use date syrup or any sweetener of your choice. Whether you want to use stevia, truvia, any sweetener of your choice, you can add it in. I'm going to add in my essence in there as well to reduce the pungent scent of the egg in the recipe. Now I'm using honey because it's not everybody who uses sugar. So when you're dieting, you try to run away from them. So I used that in this recipe. And I added in baking powder, which wasn't in the other recipe, the regular one, because oats takes a long time to rise and oats is hard to rise by itself. So you need to add in the baking powder to allow it or help it rise. Or it's going to come out dense, which we don't want. And I added in water in bits. Now, don't forget that oats absorbs a lot of water. So, if you're doing it like the other one, you're going to have very hard oat donuts, which you don't want. So, I added in my water in bits and I kept mixing, just like I did for the other one. So, you just mix this for like 10-15 minutes. And as you're mixing, be adding your water in bits. So I added in roughly, that was like for that cup of oats, I used like 1/4 cup of water or like 1/3 cup of water. Yes. And I just mixed it and I placed that to also rise for 30 minutes. And as I was doing that, I was doing my cocoa alongside. So if you've not checked my how the cocoa recipe, you can check that on the channel, how to make your house of cocoa smooth and silky. So let's go on to fry our donut. Yes, our wet donut recipe. Toogbei. So yes, I'm using my spoon to pour it in. Once it goes into the oil, it's going to sink, but it's going to rise afterwards. That lets you know that yes, you've done a good job. Be careful not to overly load your oil, or it's not going to get great results. And if you're using a spoon, be mindful of how you drop it. If you don't drop it well, you won't get that shape properly, or you could just use your hand. Yes, so once it goes in, it's going to drop and let it form before you try turning, especially when it's soft, or else it's going to spoil the shape of your wet donut. So I just let it cook like the bottom part, which is in the oil, let it cook for a while, then you flip it over, and then you let the other side to also cook. So it's all about flipping for it to beautifully cook. And this is your simple wet donut recipe, which is rich and tasty and it's abalicious. So I'm just going to be turning it. My book, you realize how cooked it was and how soft and fluffy it was. That's how you really want to get your toogbei. So you can take that out and then we can go on to fry the oat one. So yes, see the texture? It's just a beautiful texture. So I'm just going to use my spoon to help me take it out. Because oats is a bit heavier, I'm just going to use a spoon to help scoop it off it. And you realize that that one also goes down to the base before it rises to the top. So yes, this is about our oat donut recipe. So if you have issue with using wheat flour, you could just use oat flour for your donut and enjoy it as well. No one should be left out. You should all be able to eat your cocoa and your buffaloes and enjoy it beautifully. Yes, we're just going to be turning for each side to brown. And basically, we are very much done with our buffaloes recipe. So this is how simple and easy it is to make your buffaloes from scratch at home. Yes, you can do this and enjoy it with the family for your breakfast. You know, in Ghana, we even just evening, yes, in the evening sometimes if you just buy a cocoa and then you go with the flow. So yes, try this recipe at home. Give me feedback on how it went because I really loved it. It was tasty, it was nice, it was soft. One thing about the oats I almost forgot to mention is that the texture is not the same as the wheat flour one. So the wheat flour ones are very, very soft and fluffy. But the oat ones, yes, they're also tasty, but they're a bit heavier than the wheat flour ones. But then they're still tasty, they're still nice. They feel a bit like muffin kind of texture because they're a bit heavier, but then they were great. So I think if you're dieting or if you want to check your gluten or you're trying to avoid wheat flour, then this is your recipe to go with. And I did enjoy mine with my house of cocoa with my house team. Yes, do give this a try. Please like to the fullest. Feature has been very good. Lots of love for my team and I. Wow.